Hello drafters, welcome to Rotisserie Drafting in the XMage Draft Historical Society. In this video, I'll be going over everything you need to know to rotisserie draft with us. First off, how is rotisserie drafting different than regular drafting? Well, in rotisserie, or roto draft, everyone drafts from a pool of face-up cards one at a time. This means that everyone can see your picks and you can see everyone else's picks. Also, unlike in regular drafts, each card in the pool can only be drafted once. So a card like Disdainful Stroke, which has been printed in 2 standard legal sets, cannot be drafted 2 different times in a standard rotisserie draft. This is because, although it has been printed twice, it is still the same card. Different arts or styles also do not make a card available to be drafted twice. Lastly, the pick order in roto drafts is very different from regular drafts. Instead of everyone drafting all at the same time, everyone will take turns drafting based on a pick order. To make this easier to understand, I'm going to show you an example of a 6-player draft. First, we need to know what our card pool is. So I'm going to click over on the card pool sheet, which will show us what our card pool for this roto draft is. So for this roto draft, our card pool is the entirety of the Streets of New Capenna set. So up here, we have a link to Scryfall's advanced search included so that we can see all the cards from the roto draft that we're going to be doing. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. All right, and here we have Scryfall's advanced search tool, so we can sort by colors, by mana cost, different formats, but for this one, we're just going to be searching for Streets of New Capenna cards. If we were starting out a draft, we would probably just be searching for rare and mythic rares in order to narrow down what cards we start out with. And I'm just going to search. And here we can see every single card that is legal for us to draft in this Streets of New Capenna roto draft. And I'm just going to close this. Next, I need to know what picks I have in this draft. So I'm going to head over to the draft order sheet. Okay. According to the draft order sheet, my first 3 picks are 3rd, 10th, and 15th in the draft. This is because roto drafts use a snake draft order system where the pick order gets reversed in every round. That means that since the goblin picks last in the first round with the 6th pick, they'll get the first pick in the second round with the 7th pick. And since the dragon picks first in the first round, they will pick last in the second round and then first again in the third round. The draft picks sheet is set up so that this snaking order is easier to see as we go from one round to the next. You can think of this visualization like a marble going down a series of platforms or a mouse running through a maze. Once we get to the draft, everyone will type in their picks here in the draft picks sheet when it is their turn to pick. After someone has made their pick, they will add the next person in the draft in the Discord group chat, letting them know that it is their turn to pick. So the dragon picks first. Let's say they pick Sanctuary Warden. Then they will add the demon in the group chat, letting them know that it is their turn to pick. And let's say the demon takes All-Seeing Arbiter. Then the demon will add me in the group chat, and it's my turn to pick. Let's say I take Raffine Scheming Seer. Then I'll add the giant, and this will keep going until we are done drafting. So when it gets to be the goblin's turn to pick, what will happen is they will have 2 picks in a row. So they'll have the ability to take 2 cards back to back, which will help make up for the fact that they got the last pick in the first round. All right, and as this is happening, I'm going to move over to the draft pick images sheet. So this sheet will show all the card arts of every single card that we draft as we are drafting them. Every once in a while, this sheet will get overloaded and it'll show an error image, but usually it just takes a few hours to refresh and it'll be fine after. This will get especially bad around 150 to 200 cards into the draft. But all you got to do is close the sheet, reopen it, and it'll be fine. Another thing that's going on while we are drafting cards is our cards are being copied over into this cards selected sheet. So here, all the cards are being sorted by their color. And over here, you can see how many cards of each color are being taken at any point in the draft. If you'd like to see a list of all of the cards sorted in alphabetical order, you can find them right here in this column. After the draft is completed, we're going to open up XMage and go to the deck editor to build a 40 card deck from the cards we drafted, plus some basic lands. The rest of the cards that we draft are going to go into our sideboard for now. So in order to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy my column of cards that I have drafted. So I'm just going to click on this column, right click, and copy. All right, now that we have our drafted cards copied into our clipboard, what we're going to do in the XMage deck editor is we're going to click import, and we're going to take cards from clipboard, new deck. So what this will do is this will take the names of all the cards that we drafted, plus my username, and put it into a deck. So since my username isn't a card, it's just going to show an error message when I try to import it into a deck. If your username happens to be an actual card in Magic, then you'll need to remove the card from your deck since you did not draft it. All right, and now we got Rafine, Scheming Seer in our deck. Another way to add cards is you can just pull down this tab right here and use the search tool. This can be narrowed down by different sets since we're only drafting from Streets of New Capenna. We'll just click on that. And then you can see all the cards sorted in alphabetical order. You can narrow them down by color, search by name, mana value, rarity, bunch of different stuff. Next thing that we need to do is we need to add basic lands to our deck. So in order to do that, I'm just going to click this lands button right here and add all the basic lands that I need for my main deck. All right. All right, and there we have our the 17 lands that we're going to need for our main deck. One thing of note, during your matches, you will not be able to sideboard in basic lands unless you have them pre-added to our deck. So what I'm going to do, in order to make sure I've got basic lands that I can sideboard in to my deck during a match, just in case something feels off with our mana base, or we need to cut certain cards of a certain color, I'm going to click and drag some of these lands over into my sideboard, just so I've got some extras. And then I am just going to add a few more lands to take their spots in the main deck. All right, now that I'm done, I'm going to click Save. and give this deck a name like Streets of SNC Roto Draft, something like that. And then I am going to export this deck or take a screenshot and send it to the XDHS team member who will be keeping tabs on all of our decks. So we are sending these decks off to be verified more so that people don't try to sideboard against their opponents before the match starts. Sideboarding against opponents is not allowed until after game 1 of a match. Once everyone has submitted their deck list to the XDHS team member who's verifying deck lists, we can start playing our matches. So I'm going to go over to the match schedule sheet right here to see who my first opponent is. In this table right here, I can see everybody that I'm going to be playing against, when I'm going to be playing against them, and down in this table right here I can see the deadlines for each of my matches. So round 1 I'm going to be facing off against the Giant, and the deadline is the 25th, which is 4 days from now. So I'll have 4 days to complete this first match against the Giant before I can play against the Elf, which is my second round match. So in order to set up this match, I will private message the Giant over Discord to figure out a good time for both of us to be able to play our match against each other. Once we have our match against the Giant set up, we're going to go back into XMage in order to play our match. So what we're going to do, in order to ready up a table for our match, we are going to click on New Match over here. So I'm going to rename this Roto to make it clear to anybody else who might be on the server that this is for the Roto Draft tournament. And then we are going to use these settings for every single one of our matches in the Roto Draft tournament. So the time limit of 30 minutes is going to be so that each player has a 30-minute timer on the match, and once that timer gets down to 0, that player will forfeit the match if they use all of their time. We're going to use deck type limited so that we can have a 40-card main deck. Allowed quit percentage of 100. 2-player duel. We are going to have 2 wins here. So that XMage knows it's a best of 3. Game default mulligan type, free mulligans. And then right over here, this is how we grab the deck that we made from the deck editor earlier. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this button right here, right next to generate, and we're going to scroll through our XMage files to find our deck that we made from our Roto Draft picks. And once we do that, we are going to click Create for the match. And then it's going to set up a match right here. The Giant is going to be able to click on a join button right here to be able to join a match against us. And once they hop in, we can press start and start playing our match. So after I play my match against the Giant, I'm going to head over to this scoring sheet right over here. And underneath where it says Giant on my scoring sheet, I'm going to type in the number of games I won in our best of 3 match. So let's say I won my match against the Giant 2-1. So I'm going to type in a 2 under Giant on my score sheet. So I'm going to enter 2. The score sheet will recognize that as a win for best of 3 matches and change this O to a win for me. The Giant, since they won 1 game, they will type in 1 under my name, and the sheet will register it as a loss for that match for them. Then if we head over to the leaderboard, we can see that I have 1 win, the giant has 1 loss, and everyone else has not played a match yet. So my match win percentage, since I've won the only match that I played in, is 100%, and the Giants is 0 since they lost the only match they played in. But they were able to get a game in, which makes their game win percentage 33%, and my game win percentage is going to be at 66.6%. So these game win percentages are only important for tiebreakers in this tournament. Other than that, we are going to be sticking with overall record or match win percentage when not everyone's played the same number of matches. And yeah, I believe that's everything you need to know in order to be able to do a rotisserie draft with XDHS. Thanks for watching. I hope this video was helpful for you. Until next time, happy drafting, everybody.